Good morning, everyone. It's Michelle Hill with Southern Inspirations. I'm so happy to be here today and to have an opportunity to speak with my guest, Eric Gilmore. Eric is the Executive Director of Immerse Arkansas, and they are doing wonderful things to help youth transform from crisis into overcomers. Welcome, Eric. How are you this morning?
Thanks, Michelle. Doing well. It's good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. And you're welcome. This is such a pleasure for me and an honor, just that you would take time away from your everyday duties to spend some time with me, just to share about your story, yours and your wife, Kara, how you start, your personal history tied to this organization and how you started it in 2008. I'm thankful for the opportunity to come alongside you and share the good that you're doing.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I love how you use your platform to just draw attention to things going on in the community and different needs. So I just think that's such a great thing. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Eric. Well, before we dive into the organization itself and what you do day in and day out, I mentioned that you and your wife, Kara, have personal ties. There's a reason that you felt led to start this organization. It's because you and Kara know firsthand through your own experience with fostering youth what can potentially happen, I should say, to a staggering number of youth who age out of the foster care system. So could you share a little bit about yours and Kara's, background with that, and then eventually what led to starting this wonderful organization?
Yeah, sure. The story goes way back for me in terms of my dad was a pastor, and we always had missionaries in our church and in our home, and saw all kinds of slideshows from missionaries from all around the world of orphans and of kids that were starving. And just early on had a desire to help, but never heard about foster care till I got to college. And I just think it's important to share that there is a point that now doesn't feel too long ago where I never thought about kids in our own community that needed families, one, and then two, what happens if a kid is in foster care and they don't get adopted? So those are just some things that a while back never crossed my mind, but that all changed when my wife and we became house parents at a group home for kids in foster care after learning about the need. And there was one young woman, her name was Megan. She was with us just for a brief time while we were house parents, but she came into foster care when she was 12. So she had all kinds of horrible and abuse and neglect prior to that. Came into foster care. And between the ages of 12 and 18, she was in about 50 different placements. So 50 different homes, facilities, hospitals, just moved around the system until she turned 18. And we had kind of stayed with her. We would follow her. She'd come to our house for a visit. So we stayed with her for a few years. But then the day after her 18th birthday, her transition to adulthood was she was dropped off at the Greyhound bus stop downtown North Little Rock here. And she had one bag of clothes and one night's worth of her bipolar medications. And a one-way bus pass to go back to Fort Smith to be with some family members that she hadn't seen since she was 12 years old. And that's really when it hit us hard, as we saw the experience of kids who age out of foster care here in Arkansas and really around the country, to learn that there's 20,000 young people that age out every year of the system, maybe 200 to 225 here in Arkansas. Wow. To just see that challenge, just say we couldn't pretend that we didn't see what we saw as she pulled away from that parking lot.
I was doing some research this week in preparation for our time together today, and truly the statistics, both in our state of Arkansas as well as nationally, are just almost mind-boggling. I found this one statistic from the NFYI. I'm sure you already know this. More than 23,000 children will age out of the U.S. foster care system every year. And you mentioned the number, there for Arkansas. And it's one of those things, Eric, that it truly just stopped me in my tracks. I mean, it's one of those things that I was like, wow, I knew this. I had a general understanding that the problem exists, but not nearly what I've now come to understand just in these last few days. So the thought of Megan being dropped off with one bag of belongings at Greyhound, saying, I mean, essentially, good luck, go get them, throw her at the bulls or the sharks or what, it's until you don't know what you don't know sometimes. Once you mentioned how you and Kara were just stirred seeing that. So anyway, I just thought I would mention this statistic about it. And again, I'm sure you could quote many more that are just staggering.
Yeah. That is it's hard to get your mind around.
Right.
And knowing that goes on. And I think the thing that is encouraging to me right now is that it's something that Arkansas is really working on, and Arkansas is working to make it an easier transition for those young people as they do age out, and make supports available. But yeah, the statistics they're staggering. So some of those core ones that we really care about is that by the age of 24, if you age out of foster care, by the age of 24, there's a 40% chance that you'll experience homelessness at least once. Which is it's a really high likelihood of something like that. And then of course,
that's the other whole part of it. You have the part that's during foster care where children, they're going through frequent moves. You mentioned how many times Megan had moved. And again, this is while they're in the system. Frequent moves, sibling separation, of course, academic disruption, if there are any academics, of any significance. And tell me if you agree. And again, I know you are right there on the front lines. Adolescents have just this unique set. All foster children go through certain issues, whether it's mentally, emotionally, academically, but adolescents, particularly because there comes that moment in time where they age out, they have a unique set of issues, and really even before they age out, because from the research, it looks like it's rare. I don't know if rare is the right word, but there's less of a chance, I think, that the older teens, get adopted or accepted into foster homes. And so it's almost like the gray area, catch-22, where you have the Megans with the bag at the Greyhound bus station more than we would want, for sure,
Yeah.
Well, you guys are working to come alongside and again, I feel myself this lost word, I don't want to say fix it, but you're doing what you can to lessen those numbers of these youth in crisis getting lost, so to speak, and in homelessness that you mentioned earlier, or drug abuse or alcohol abuse, or resorting to a life of crime. Sometimes it, I'm sure, is just a survival, mechanism. So I know, what is the difference though in their experience, and you speak to, of course, their experience in foster care, then transitioning out, but then how you're bridging that gap specifically at Immerse to help them transform.
Yeah. So the three key things that we do, or just kind of key to our approach, would be one, that we really look at things through a lens of trauma. So just early on, it became clear that however we defined the problem was really going to lead to the solutions that we created. So if we said, hey, this is really an issue of homelessness, or it's really an issue of poverty, we're going to end up in a certain place. But if we say, hey, this is really about the traumatic abuse, the neglect, the bouncing around in a system, those kinds of things, that creates a different program and a different path. So we've oriented a path and program that's has healing in mind, takes that trauma into account. That not only do we want them to achieve in some real key areas, but we also want them to experience just a level of well-being and what we describe as overcoming these challenges. So trauma is a big deal to what we do. The other is time. We just say that we're going to give it whatever it takes. So there are elements of our programs that on the front end, they look time limited, but really we just seek to get in there with each young person as long as it takes. So we just know that that's what works, is people who don't give up on you. The other is just this tribe of support. So our whole goal is to surround young people with a group of people that are going to stick with them past their time in Immerse, because that's what leads to so many good, those relationships, those connections, that support over the long time. So those are things that really shape and drive our approach to what we do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And, as you were talking, the word relationship came to mind because that's what you're doing. You're building a relationship. And the fact that you start with the trauma is so real and so raw, but it's where you're coming from. And like you mentioned, you have to start there. And where is it that they most need the assistance and the love and the support? As I was reading through your website and just grabbing different points, I also really anchored down on this. And I love this, that the organization is anchored in values, focused on youth, and measuring impact. And really, Eric, what you just described, the trauma, the time, putting that tribe around them, that's it. That is what you are doing. That is your mission and what you do day in and day out. And that is so very impactful. So what are some specific things, Eric, that happen at Immerse? Would you mind just kind of walking us through this scenario, if you will? I know you gave us the story of Megan, but if a young person is aging out and Immerse has the wonderful, blessed opportunity to step in, what does that look like for that youth?
Sure. Yeah. There's a couple different entry points there that a young person could come in, or programs that they're going to interact with. We'll say there's three. One is we do street outreach where we're going to schools, or we're going to parks or bus stations, libraries, looking for young people that need this kind of support and trying to build a connection with them, build rapport, and then invite them back into kind of that next level of programming, which is we call the OC, or Overcomer Central. It's a youth center here on Asher, just east of UALR, where young people can come and they can meet with a coach. They can get help building a resume, or get a meal, or have a place to hang out, or meet with a mentor, those kinds of things, learn life skills. And then that probably the most significant layer of support we provide is our transitional living program, where a young person can come in and we come into one of our houses or apartments, and they'd be matched with a coach who's really going to try and hear them out and understand their needs, build a plan that incorporates some of their core goals around education and employment, things like that, and then build a tribe around that young person, and then make sure they've got the right tools. So it could look like bus passes, or again, life skills, learning how to cook, or learning how to grocery shop, or different things like that. So it's in that housing program where youth really get to practice adulthood and become prepared then to launch out onto their own.
Yeah. As you were talking just about particularly the life skills, that's just one of those things that you and I and many of us take for granted. And individuals having spent the majority or all of their lives maybe in a foster care system, coming out don't necessarily inherently, have those skills. So just knowing that you guys really look at it from a holistic perspective, Eric, and you are approaching every single area of life to create a more whole individual, to help them transition into society out of that system. And I just think that is incredible. So I know you have a lot of existing support. The organization does. You've been around for 12 years now. Is that right? But what can folks do, folks watching, folks who might just now be hearing about your organization and what you do? What can we do to come alongside you in this?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. In terms of the volunteering side of things, there's kind of practical things that just help make it work. One of those big needs would just be meals. So we do some group events on Tuesday and Friday nights, and those meals are usually brought in by church groups or business groups that prepare a meal for young people and volunteers and mentors and staff. So that's a big help. And those kinds of things, if on our website, immersearkansas.org, in the top right, there's a button that says volunteer, and you can click on that and learn about some of those opportunities. There's also, to go back to that theme of relationships, we need people that are going to get in the trenches with these young people. And that really takes the form of mentors, is how we define that and create that here. And so we're always looking for people who want to come alongside a specific youth and stick it out with them over the course of years, through the ups and downs, through, the failures and the successes, and really be a part of their support network for a long time. So right. That's also available, that information there on our website and how to do that. But those are a couple of our big core needs in terms of how people can get involved.
Thank you. I'm speaking of your website, I want to put that up real quick so folks can see that, because that'll be a good place to go to get that information and more. And then also you mentioned that you have a Facebook page, and so I know there's lots of information there as well. Thank you again. What else, Eric? Is there anything that we've missed that you just kind of want folks to know, or anything on your heart in addition to share?
I think that I would just say it just seems like a really important time to do something. I think our society feels so volatile, and there's so much tension and uncertainty right now that I notice in myself. I go back between either wanting to pull back and retreat at some level, or just really want to run ahead and engage at a real intense level. Yeah. But I just say, man, it just seems like a really important time for folks who, if you have extra capacity in some way, to look for a way to just help others right now. So I've seen you feature a lot of great nonprofits, a lot of great things going on around Central Arkansas here. So I'd just say, man, what a great time to find a place to plug in and try and make a difference in somebody else's life.
Yeah, you are so right. I could not have said it any better myself. And I did a story yesterday with a nonprofit leader, and asked her the same exact question, and she gave practically the same exact answer as you. You just said, do something, get involved somewhere and give back. And Eric, even this morning, as I was I've been reading just a fabulous book because I'm a part of a weekly Bible study. And well, I say reading, I was listening to it on Audible. Let me correct myself. Either way, there was, even as recent as this morning, as the book was nearing the end, I'm nearing completion of this particular book and Bible study, the author spoke specifically about giving back. And what it does, not only for us, for our heart and the warm and fuzzy and all of that, but psychologically. And what it does to our brains in a good, positive way when, quite frankly, we get out of ourselves. We quit making it about us. And that's so rewarding, but it goes beyond the reward to truly knowing that you're helping another individual, another human being. So I love that. We have a comment. Oh, my friend Amelia joined. Hey, Amelia, thank you. The book is called Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen, and Jenny is an Arkansas girl. I don't know if you've heard of her. The book has just been fabulous, and Amelia has been in a group with me, Eric, where we mastermind, where it's all about mindset and being in a positive environment, in positive ways about yourself. And so I've worked a lot on that, both with the group that I'm in with Amelia, as well as from a Christianity perspective, applying the truths of Scripture to having that mindset to give back. And so, again, wonderful, wise words from you. This has been great, as I absolutely knew it would. I'm excited about, albeit our relationship is new and fresh, I'm very excited to move forward and whatever that means, to come alongside you in some way, some capacity to support. So you can count on Southern Inspirations to share and to help you, get the word out. Hopefully I'll get to meet you and Kara in person one day. And like I said, just continue to be a part of what you got going on over there. So,
well, thanks again. Thanks so much for, like you're just doing now, exposing people to the needs that are out there and ways to get involved. Just really appreciate it. Love chatting with you. And
oh gosh, well, you're very welcome. And thank you again to everyone who is watching. Please share this video. We want to get more of the word out, of course, about the work being done at Immerse. And as always, I always ask my viewers, Eric, if you know of anyone that is a nonprofit leader or yourself a nonprofit leader, and you would like an opportunity to get the word out like this on the Southern Inspirations platform, I'm always booking stories because it's just my heart to continue to come alongside the organizations to help continue to spread the word. So with that, that is it, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, y'all.